Leah, I
What?
thought we I thought we had this conversation.
What?
That shirt, I asked you not to wear that shirt on the podcast. Man, like you just don't respect my boundaries.
Well, maybe you should respect my boundaries of not calling me at 8 a.m. We have a time difference, Lamont. That's 5 a.m. here. Hey, you know what?
What?
We should do an episode about boundaries and assertiveness.
That's a great idea. I'm Lamont, and don't touch my stuff.
And I'm Leah. You better watch what you say.
And
And
you're
you're
tuning
tuning
in
in
to
to
the
the
Lamont
and
and
Leah
Leah
podcast.
podcast. So today, Leah, we have our returning friend and guest, Tyretel, and then you get to meet my mentor, Sherice Hudgins.
Okay.
Now, Tyretel in one of the shows
Mm-hmm.
had commented on our YouTube like she wanted to be on the assertive episode.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize it was Tyretel, so I was like, "Hey, sure, let's make this happen, right?" And then like Tyretel messages me like on Messenger. She's like, "Hey, the person that you said let's make it happen is me. It's me,
Oh.
Lamont." Like, oh my gosh, okay. So she really wanted to be included today, and
All
then
right.
Sharice hit me up. She saw our podcast right away, like our
Mm-hmm.
first like three, like right away when they came out, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, you're doing such great work. I definitely want to collaborate." So I gave her a list, and this was one of the ones that she picked.
Okay.
So yeah,
Sounds good.
so let's get started.
Let's go.
Welcome back, Tyretel. I'm so glad you can join us today. Why don't you reintroduce yourself and tell our audience like anything you want them to know about yourself?
Okay. My name is Tyretel. You can call me Tyra, and I'm a physical therapist. And I don't know about myself. I like anything outdoorsy, hiking, camping, anything.
All
All
right,
right.
and that's all true.
Good intro. Good intro.
And then we have Sharice. Sharice is my mentor. I fell in love with her the moment that I got to Oak Grove. She was one of the first people I met, and she
Mhm.
definitely took me under her wing. And she helped me become a better mental health worker, I believe. Go ahead, Sharice. Introduce yourself.
All right. So I'm Sherice Hudgins, and I am a mental health worker at Oak Grove. I work with special needs kids and their families. My roles are parent partner. So I'm an advocate for parents, and I'm also a behavior specialist working with youth and things that I love. I love being outdoors as well. I love the ocean. I love the beach. I love gardening and cooking and baking. So anything related to those three, I am a happy camper.
I feel like all of us would get along, like
They
in
look
person.
twins. I was gonna say,
Like
I was like, are we all twins?
everything that was listed, I was like, oh yeah, duh.
Yes.
So that's good.
And very easy to get along with. So
It's true.
that's why I think I connected with Lamont very quickly.
All right, so today, guys, we are talking about being assertive and cultivating assertiveness and practicing boundaries and why it's important. I think the first question is there a difference between boundaries, limits, and assertiveness? And if so, what are those differences?
Well, I would say I believe there are differences between boundaries, limits, and assertiveness. And so a boundary, I would say, is a line that marks a limit of an area dividing. So, like a partition, a border, or a margin, keeping oneself separate. Okay, that would be a boundary. A limit is a consistent point or a level beyond which something doesn't pass.
Mhm.
A restriction, a restraint, a break, or a control. And then assertiveness, I would say that that's how it's a character of how you behave or speak. Is there confidence, a declaration of confidence, of firmness that's coming from your voice, a statement that's made without any proof. That would be assertiveness for me. What do you guys think?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty much on board with that too. The boundaries is something that, personally, we're talking about more behavioral or mental, psychological rather than physical boundaries. But, thinking about something that you said between yourself and somebody else or multiple people, right? It's between you and another party as compared to limit, like you said, a restriction that you can set upon yourself. Right? It doesn't have, or other people too, but, talking about, personal stuff is we can't control other people's limits or other people's boundaries. We control our boundaries and our personal limits and restrictions. And yeah, assertiveness is a behavior that each of us have and what we choose to or to not do and how we say things. Yeah. So 100% agree.
Okay.
Leah, what are your thoughts?
I'm not sure because again, this is a topic that I am not clear on. So honestly, I'm here to learn and ask some questions because going based off of what I heard so far, these are things I don't have.
I think you do.
Should I have had them already? Am I behind?
No. I think you may not recognize like when you're like using them or interacting with them, which I think is the case for a lot of people too. And I think the issue is people aren't intentional with like drawing boundaries and practicing assertiveness and stuff. But there's definitely been times, Leah, you've been assertive, and there's definitely been times where I've seen you draw boundaries, and you know your limits. Like, I'm not comfortable. I don't like it when this happens. Okay. Right? So here's some of my thoughts. I think limits is like the absolute furthest line, and we create boundaries so we're not reaching those limits. And one of the ways to maintain those boundaries is to use assertiveness. What do you guys think?
That's a good way to kind of tie it all in together.
Yeah, that's kind of like my thought process on all of that. So I found this really cool, like, I was looking at different, like, how different ways people are defining it, and I kind of, like, I was like, ooh, I'm gonna take that person's definition, that person's definition, ooh, let's put this person's definition. And so this is what I got. Assertiveness is the courage to be ourselves and show the world our likes and dislikes, our thoughts, feelings, and shortcomings. It requires you to be direct about what you want and your needs while still considering the rights and needs and wants of others. When being assertive, you are confident and powerful in getting your point across without acting like a bully or seeming pushy.
Yeah, I read something earlier also talking about assertiveness, saying that being assertive is maintaining and standing up for yourself and others while still being calm and respectful. And I think that's a huge thing because people, I think, really blend or blur the lines between being assertive and being aggressive.
Yes.
A lot of people think that you have to be aggressive to be assertive, but that's not true.
That's not true.
And people may not recognize it. And I think it's important. Actually, we might get to that later. I don't know. But I think it's important to not also for ourselves to know when we're being assertive and when we're being aggressive. But it's important for us to understand that difference, to see it in others, especially if you think about people that are in leadership positions. You have to, do the yearly reviews. And if you have an employee that's being assertive, but you don't know the difference and you think they're being aggressive, then that will cause you to give them a poor review, right? So it's important for us to recognize that in ourselves, but also in other people.
Good thing to.
That's a really good point because sometimes in looking up definitions for assertiveness or being assertive, things popped up like forceful or a tendency to make demands. And sometimes people may look at that as being aggressive, but if you have a point or a thought that you're trying to get across, sometimes it's very direct and it can be very firm, but you can do it with love and grace,
Correct.
or you could just be straight and, cut to the point and be, sometimes crass, and people may look at that as, wow, that's a little bit aggressive, but there's an intent in what you're doing, and an implied intent.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, I think a lot of people are aggressive all the time. I'm scared of everyone. So,
But when we're talking about the different communication styles, there's three. There's being aggressive, there's being passive, and there's being assertive. And we want the world to be more assertive. So Tyretel hit on aggression, like being forceful, pretty much like just like saying things in a mean way, or having like, say like you're feeling hostile, and like it's totally cool to feel hostile, like especially if something has gone on. I'm not saying ignore your feelings, but I'm saying like if you're being hostile, maybe take a minute, cool down, calm down, and then communicate so you can be assertive, right? But when you're engaging and you're letting that hostile come into your communications, we're being a little bit more aggressive, and we're probably not getting the point across, or we're probably saying hurtful or mean things, and now people's defenses are going up and people are stopped listening. So, right? So when practicing assertive behavior, hopefully you're using kind words, you're being firm, you're being direct, you're not like going around the subject, like you're being direct, but it's in such a loving way, in such a respectful way, that I can hear you taking what you say. It might hurt a little bit because I might have been doing something that I didn't intend to do, but I can still hear you and I can make the appropriate adjustments.
Yeah. I think it's also really important for us as listeners to know like our personalities and our characters. Like a lot of times we automatically get defensive. The person may not even be aggressive at all. They may be assertive, but because we may not be, so we're insecure, uncomfortable with somebody being assertive, we can read that and perceive that as aggression. And now we're getting defensive, and there's no point in that communication at that point. So I think, Leah, I'm pointing to you. I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding.
go ahead.
No, but I'm saying, I think like it's really important because there are certain times that, I also feel like, man, that person was being so aggressive. And then when I'm calmed down, I'm like, no, I was just being really defensive because I don't like to hear certain things. Right. So I think it's important that we also spend a lot of time in self-reflection and recognize that in ourselves, that when somebody does practice assertive behavior, we are allowing them to be assertive and not making them feel bad about it, because they have the right to be assertive and we have the right, to listen and take that in and, be kind back. So,
So assertiveness. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sherice. Were you going to say something?
Oh, no. And I was just going to kind of piggyback on I was thinking of positive self-concept, and like not allowing others to define who I am. So like when a person is trying to be assertive and maybe they're sharing or bringing up things about you and you may be triggered about that positive self-concept, not allowing others to define you. But there's a way to do that, with tact and with grace. And you guys will probably hear me say that a lot, because I try to be very respectful when I'm talking to people, because I also want that back. And I also deflect from negativity. I try not to interact with very many people that are negative, because I don't like being around fun suckers, because I like having a lot of fun. And I am a very assertive person that practices very good boundaries and limits. But when I'm defined incorrectly, then I try to use respect and assert myself to share what it is that I need them to know.
Yeah, and that's the key point right there. Sharing. When I'm being assertive, I'm sharing with you my needs. I'm sharing with you my wants. I'm sharing with you how I want to connect better. And that is the whole point about being assertive.
Okay.
So why are people struggling putting up their boundaries, and what are some barriers that are realistic in people's lives?
So I laugh because when you had sent me the potential questions, I just, oh my gosh, my mind flooded with so many thoughts. But first thing is that we're not really taught to put up emotional, mental boundaries. As kids, we're taught physical boundaries, right? This is your desk. Everything on your desk is yours. Everything on somebody else's desk is theirs. You don't touch other people's things, right? Apartments, these are walls, houses, this is the fence. You're taught physical boundaries, but we're not taught how to set up emotional or mental boundaries. And especially if you think about, you know, speaking personally from my experience growing up, and I know Leah's going to understand this very well, there's no such things as boundaries between parents and children. I mean, from parents to children, yes. From children to parents, none, right? So we never had a privacy. It was, you do this because I told you so. You should do this because I'm your parent. And so we're taught growing up to whatever the adult and the authority figure says you do, and that's it, right? There's no conversation, there's no negotiation in that. You just do it. So then we grow up and we never learn to put up, I mean, we try, right? We have rebellious stages and, well, I'm not going to do this because blah, blah, blah. And, then we get our butts whooped or something else, right? So we were never really taught to do that as kids. So then we grow up and we're like, I want to be friends with everyone and I want to make people happy, because our entire lives growing up was making our parents proud, making our parents happy, making our teachers happy. And so we are constantly on this people pleasing, adventure, and we don't know how to deal with what happens when our needs are not being met, right? We've never been taught that. So that's one thing. I think it's hard because we are not taught how to do it. And then we try to do it, but we improperly do it because we have no education. And so when it's done improperly, there's a lot of negative stuff that can come out of it. And so then we get discouraged and we don't want to do it again because we don't want to have to deal with that, right? Another big thing is communication. We don't know how to communicate with people effectively. I think is a really big thing, especially now with social media. People are just texting. You don't have to have face-to-face encounters. You just interpret whatever you think their tone of voice is via text, but it may be completely wrong, right? We're not taught social cues anymore because we're so just media and, just totally ruined our communication skills. But people, I think, have a harder time with this when they don't like confrontation, because if there's one thing that is a universal truth, in my opinion, is that boundaries will always be crossed. I do not have a friend who's never not crossed a boundary, right? And so the problem is that you're like, I'm going to set boundaries, and then you do it, and then somebody crosses that boundary, but you have no plan of what to do once those boundaries are crossed. And so your options are, well, I'm a people pleaser, so I'm going to let it slide, right? And then you let it slide, and then it keeps sliding until you blow past all the effective ways of communication, and you go to a passive aggressive, or you just completely cut off that relationship, right? Or you just have no idea how to communicate, so they cross the boundary one time and you just go to the aggressive because you have no idea what to do, and then that completely halts any progress that happened. So then again, that went bad. You don't want to set up boundaries again, or you continue to set up improper boundaries with improper forms of communication. I can go on forever, so I'm gonna let some
I knew you were gonna bring up parents. I knew it. I was like, ooh, Tyra's gonna bring up her dad.
Well, no, like parents.
I'm gonna bring up my mom.
Yeah, so I don't think parents don't. I don't know. So like, as Tyretel was talking and sharing, I was flashing back to an experience with my goddaughter. We were trying to my friends were moving, and she was living with my friends at that time, and she was getting ready to move back to Arizona, and I was just there to help and have dinner and stuff, and They were doing stuff on the inside. We were doing stuff on the outside. I need to go inside and grab something, but she did not want to come. She did not want to come. And so she's 5 at this time. And so those feelings of like, you need to do what I need to tell you to do when I tell you to do them came up. I didn't do that though. I was like, no, no, no. I tried to like talk to her and reason with her, and like we couldn't get it done. Her mom finally came out. I went in and did it, and then I pulled her aside and I was like, baby, what happened? And she was like, I didn't want to go inside. I wanted to stay outside. And I was like, I understand. And at the time, I need you to come inside because there was no one to watch you. And I didn't want you going too close to the street. Right? So it's okay for you to have those feelings, like wanting to be outside. I totally get it. You want to be outside. Like, you love the outside. And it's okay to love the outside. But when I ask you to do something, really quick, I do need you to do it so we can get back to our activity. And she didn't like it, but like she heard me, and I don't think we ever had a problem since, right? But like, I love her so much. Like, I knew I needed to respect her, even though I was trying to get something done and I was frustrated, and I had to take a moment like, whoa, you're frustrated, you're the adult. Great, her mom's here, go do what you need to do, and then we can have a conversation about what just happened. Mm-hmm. You know? But like, I feel like a lot of parents, especially like parents of color or different ethnic descents, aren't taught like these thought concepts, right? And I probably if I had not gone to school to learn some of this stuff, I may have not been able to effectively communicate with my goddaughter.
Yeah. That's a really good point, because at first I was thinking of things that kids automatically say and were not taught is mine. I can do it. I got it. You know, those kind of individual people may look at them as very selfish, but they are setting boundaries. Mm-hmm. They are trying to assert themselves with those sentences or those short words that they're sharing. But I remember growing up, and I'm a little older than you guys, so I grew up in a time where kids were told, we don't want to see you or hear you. When I tell you to go somewhere or do something, I need you to do it now without any lip or back talk or what have you, because we got spanked is a good word. That's a nice word for now, but we got way worse than that.
We got whooped.
Beat. Yeah.
Me too.
With my great grandma, it was the chancla, the shoe. You know, we got all that. So there was no asserting yourself. There was no you personally setting a boundary. Those were all set for you, and you knew what the limits were, and you did not cross them. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. I'm thinking of a situation with my parents and setting boundaries and limits and being assertive with them. I had a hard time as an adult being assertive with them because of how I was raised. Mm-hmm. When I met and fell in love with my now husband, but we were dating, I would often tell him, you know, things that I heard my parents saying, and kind of stifled my relationship because I wasn't being assertive with them and sharing, hey, I love this person. I want to spend time with them. I want to do things. And at the time I was living with my parents. So, you know, I was saving money to buy my own house. So I was using that background and knowledge of how I was raised by them to carry out through my adulthood. And I was having conflict with my now husband because he's very assertive, and he's definitely a leader. And so I learned a lot from him, and utilizing some of the techniques that I saw him using with my parents. And he would say things to my dad that no other man or boyfriend or anything has ever said. And I'm like, I don't know if we're going to work out, because you're saying things that my dad has never heard from men that I've dated or in a relationship. And he said, well, it's it's a respect thing. And I want you to be heard. And I want them to know that you have boundaries and you have limits, and I need you to assert yourself with them. And so I started doing that. And I would say this has been maybe an 8-year journey. And I'm confident now that when they're begging and asking for information, I know how to say no without waiting for a response. It's a no, or it's, we're not going to talk about that, or that's our key and our business. And so it's been very interesting, the dynamic of how I was raised as a kid to where I am now as an adult.
Yeah.
Are you sure we're not twins? Like,
Sisters from another mister.
yeah. Yeah, because that's, 100%. I think Leah and I have pretty much the same experiences with that. Both, my parents from Romania, very strict, very, especially my dad, my significantly more aggressive and assertive, but mostly aggressive, and that's just, that's how his mom was with him. That's how her parents were with her. It was just kind of very cultural, very in the family. My mom's side is a little bit different. They're more respectful of boundaries and stuff like that. So I think the hardest was with my dad and his side of the family. And it was terrible. People like, why don't you just say no? I'm like, are you kidding? You want me to die? Okay, got it. So it's definitely been a journey. And even now, sometimes I have a hard time saying no, but it's getting easier. And, it's getting to the point where I can say, hey, this is why I'm saying no. And sometimes my dad will be like, it doesn't make sense. I'm like, okay. And sometimes he'll just be like, okay, and he just accepts it, but it was definitely a long journey.
Good for you, Tyra. I'm glad to hear that.
So, Leah, do you have any thoughts on like why people might fail to put up boundaries, or what barriers they might be facing when trying to put up boundaries?
I'm just gonna have to agree with both of our guests. Like, definitely, I think it is taught and learned, and like both of them, like unacceptable in my family. We're Polynesian, so Polynesian and Asian. So, let's see. I know Lamont had written some notes in our outline, and I'm going to steal a few of these.
All right, go ahead. Still a few.
But the one that really stuck out to me is fear of missing out. He has that listed as a, possible reason someone might be having an issue to set up boundaries. And I know that, like, who would he? That is definitely something I go through all the time when someone's just like, hey, we need help with this project. Even though I have 20 different projects, I'm like, yes. Yes, I need to do it because I need to know if I missed anything. But, that just reminded me of something that happened this week. I had someone ask me if I could help out on a project, and it was a very, very time-consuming project. But this was like one of the busiest weeks I've had in a while. So literally like no time for it. And I almost said yes. I was going to be like, oh yeah, I guess I can fit it in if I, move this schedule and do that. And I was like, wait, no, I don't have time. And it's okay for me to be like, hey, I don't have time. I'm sorry. And I did it. And I was scared, but I did it.
Good for you,
Did
Leah.
it feel good? It felt good, huh?
It did.
Felt good after. Like, no, new powerful word to use.
Right. Yeah. Lamont and you guys, I was thinking of some things where if there's trauma in your youth, if there's trauma in your childhood, that could be a trigger in your adulthood where you might practice poor boundaries. You might allow people to walk over you, or you might allow people to infiltrate their demands on you, and you feel like I have to do it, because I want to please them. I don't want them to be mad at me, or I don't want them to feel some type of way. So I'll just do it, because when I didn't do it when I was younger, something happened, or I wasn't liked, or I was talked about, or I was teased, or what have you. So those kind of things may play back into a person's head. Trauma could hurt a person, and helping them to have poor boundaries and
Yeah.
setting limits.
And piggybacking off of that and what Leah said with the FOMO, the fear of missing out, my biggest issue with boundaries growing up and even like into my adulthood was I was scared of losing friends.
Yes.
We moved a lot when we were younger. I had a hard time making, not that I had a hard time making friends, I had time keeping friends because
Mhm.
just culturally I was different, especially when when I got to my junior high, the first like legit school I went to and I moved to America. Um, the first week, everyone wanted me to be my friend. And after that, it
Mm.
was like people making fun of me because I was different, I was new. And so it was just, when I finally found the friends that I wanted to keep, I didn't communicate the fact that they were crossing boundaries because I didn't want to lose them. Because I thought if I say this, they're not going to want to be my friend anymore. And that carried on for quite a while, even into my college career or college life, whatever. And that was my biggest issue with boundaries. I didn't have a problem setting them. I had a problem upholding them because I didn't want to lose those friendships. And once I got to the point to where I would like Leah, I would say yes to everyone, yes to everything. I would try to do everything for everyone because the more I do, the more people will like me. I will have value, right? I show them my value as a friend. And that way, if I say yes, if at any point in time I have to say no, they're not going to just leave because they know I'm valuable, you know? And so you just overdo everything. And what's crazy is that I did all that for people and I still lost friends. And so it kind of got to the point where I was like, you know what? It really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much you do for someone. If somebody wants to be a friend, wants to stay in life, they will, and that's that, and I can say that I've, lost a few friends along the way, and I don't miss them, if that makes sense. I'm not like, oh, what a loss, It's like, I'm not saying like, yes, I'm gonna go cut everyone off, but like emotionally, mentally, just I feel a lot more at peace that I don't have that negativity because it was such a stressful friendship because there
Yeah.
was constantly boundaries being crossed, not understanding, and it's just, and maybe down the line we'll be friends again. Who knows? We've all grown up and all that, but I think that's another big thing, that issue that people have, not wanting
Yeah.
to lose friends or miss out, and that's a good point that Leah brought up.
That is good. Very good point.
So, in wrapping up this question, I really like what you had to say about trauma, Sharice. I
Yeah.
love Tyretel that you brought out the social conditioning. I think from the social conditioning, that's where trauma is able to like connect. And so not only are we being social conditioned, but we're experiencing that trauma, and now we're learning how to respond to survive so we can make connections, but some of these connections become unhealthy for us. So, and then I think the other idea here is perfectionism, like wanting to be perfect, wanting to like show that you're not weak, wanting to show that I can do everything. And then I feel like women are more socialized to be that, like clean the house, maintain the children, care for her husband, care for herself, and stuff. Like I feel like that's very much like, and so that creates a lot of perfectionist idealism that's not realistic.
Today's activity is going to be a little bit different. We are joined by our guest today, which is something we haven't done before. But we are going to be talking today about some of our favorite things that we've like really been into this week, like our obsessions right now, current obsessions. So I'll start first. I've recently really been into this show from the UK called Taskmaster lately. It's really funny. A bunch of comedians like compete doing tasks and they get, points that don't really matter. And it's been really fun to watch in the really short seasons. The company actually posted a large majority of the episodes online during the pandemic so that people could, be entertained and watched it while they were, staying at home. And I've also really been into these drinks called yerba mate, especially the mint flavor. They taste real good. She's shaking her head. Does she know about them?
Yes, those are fabulous.
I know.
Yes. I like I think it's one called Triberryology or
Yeah.
I don't know. I like all of them.
Yeah. I really like the mint one, and every time I go to the store, it's out. I'm like, I guess I'm not the only one.
So, Leah, you got to ship me one.
Okay, yeah, I'll send you one. They're real good.
I could probably find
They
it.
have them at Sprouts, Lamont, if you have a Sprouts near you.
I don't think we have a Sprouts in Colton. Is that like in like Hemet, Marietta area?
Yeah.
I think I've also seen it at maybe Stater Brothers.
Okay, I'll go check it out. What's it called?
Everyone, yerba mate. I'll send you a link later.
Okay, cool.
What about you guys? What have you been into recently?
So, I saw this one show on Netflix called Special, and I really, really liked it because there's a main central gay character, but he has cerebral palsy.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like the way they develop his character and his mom's character. She's raised him all her life. She has definitely this like attachment, like he can't do anything without me. I want to say he's in his 30s and he's finally like moving out and wants his own place and he wants to do things on his own. But then like when disaster happens, who does he call? Mom, because that's the only person that's been there for him like this whole entire time. But like he's trying to do it on his own. He's trying to make it, trying to make friends. Mom starts dating when her son moves out. And like she's discovering like what it's like to be a woman without a child, to like date and like it and like this guy, and so they're going through this dynamics, and then he finds out, but like he's trying to handle it in his own way, but he's trying to date, and then like he falls in love with this really charming guy. The charming guy has a boyfriend, but then like yeah, it was a really cute show. I'm hoping that Netflix renews it and does a second season. And then I've been into like audiobooks lately, and I've been listening to these Shifter audiobooks on YouTube for free. I have Audible, but like I found like you can listen to audiobooks on YouTube for free. And there's Liam Kinsey, and he does these like Shifter werewolf series. They're gay, like romance
Yeah.
series, and I'm just like, oh, like some of this stuff is like totally fake and whatever. I was like, yeah, like I wish someone would love me like that. So I'm just like listening to like crap, but but loving it at the same time.
Lamont's just trying to find his own werewolf.
Right.
All right, sounds good. Sharice?
A snack that I'm really, really into is bell peppers,
Mhm.
and I slice them in half, and then I put cream cheese on them with chamoy and Valentina.
Wow.
Oh, my life. I
That
love
sounds
it.
good.
Just the crunch and then the savory from the cream cheese and the chamoy and the Valentina, that little heat, sweet spice. I love it.
I'm gonna try that.
Yeah, it's really good. I started watching, it's called Queen Sugar. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's really good. It's a family oriented TV show. This family's from Louisiana, and they own a farm that their father has passed down to them. And so you have three siblings, one younger child, he's the son. He actually inherited the farm, and the sisters kind of have to connect back with each other and meet, and they have to work through the business of having a farm.
Hmm.
One of the middle sisters is she's into business in California, helping her husband, who's an NBA basketball player, kind of finagle that business. And so it's just the ins and outs of how they connect back together and run their dad's family farm business. They're raising sugar cane,
Mhm.
and
Nice.
so it's called Queen Sugar for
Oh,
that reason.
makes
It's
sense.
really good. And then I started watching. I know it's old, and you guys are probably gonna laugh, but everybody kept telling my husband and I to look at Game of Thrones. So we're on just the first season.
Oh, welcome. Welcome to heartbreak.
Let
It
me guess. You
we're
fell
on
in love
season
with
one. It's amazing, but it's very brutal. Wow.
yeah.
Oh, it gets worse.
Okay.
Heads up, it
It's
gets worse.
amazing.
But it's a good series.
It is.
I
Yes.
think you'll really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you guys for sharing the things that you're into. And
Yeah, no
for
problem.
yeah, for our listeners, we'll try and link as much of that down below if you want to check them out for yourself.
And tell us things that you guys are into.
Yeah, leave us some comments. Let us know what your favorite thing is this week.
Is there a personal story you guys can share that made you realize the importance of practicing good boundaries?
Working in the mental health field, I feel like it's a common thing for us to work over our hours and accept more youth or clients or patients or whatever you call them on our plate, because we're in a field of helping. And so sometimes that boundary gets crossed. Am I
Mhm.
helping too much? Am I sharing too much? Am I giving too much of myself? Where do I We have to know how to reel it in, set a boundary, learn how to take care of ourselves. Self-care is important
Mhm.
in that. And so sometimes all those lines get blurred because we're in a field of helping,
Mhm.
and help has to have a start and a stop,
Yeah.
because you have to take care of yourself. And
Mhm.
so learning where those lines are is super important. And like I said, that wasn't my first job. My first job was McDonald's. So there was limits. You come in, you clock out. You're the fry girl today, or you're the bread maker, whatever you're doing the next day. In the helping field, in mental health, it's so different. It sometimes, I get phone calls after hours.
Mhm.
Trauma happens outside of banking hours.
Yeah.
Things happen after 5 o'clock. The doors just aren't closed. There's emergencies. Police have to be called, CPS 5150. There's a lot of different variants that are involved. So it those lines really have to be definitive for our self-care, because if we're not 100%, there's absolutely no way you can pour into someone else a good, healthy, strategic remedy for them, for their health. Yeah.
So, I think I called Leah about this. Like I was just flashing back one day, and I was in a bad mood, and I think we were gonna meet, and so, um, I had this Pathfinder leader, big guy, and at the time, I thought we had a really good, close relationship. And my grandmother had told him something, and he just wanted to lecture at me. And I didn't want to be lectured at. I wanted to have a conversation with him. I wanted him to understand my side of my experience, and he wasn't willing to hear me that day. And so I must have been like 16 at this time, and I was just like you're really just gonna lecture at me this whole entire time. You're not going to hear anything I have to say. And he was like, no, like you need to listen and blah blah, like I'm just a child. And so I decided to walk away. That was such an empowering moment for me. And then like he tried to threaten me. He was like, well, if you like, let's see if you ever have the balls again to walk away from me like that again. I told him, well, if you want to have a relationship with me, you're not going to just lecture at me. You're going to hear me and let me share my experiences with you, my side. And if you can't do that, then we can't have conversations.
Yeah.
Power move, Lamont.
But it was taking care of my soul,
yeah,
and
yeah,
like
I know, I
realizing that
know.
I could do that. And I think a lot of people don't realize they have the power to put those boundaries and walk away and say, this is not good for me. And if you want to be in my life, you're going to consider what's good for me too.
Yes.
I think it's also important to recognize that if you have a friendship or relationship with someone that's made up of 99% boundaries, then that's not a relationship that you should have. You know what I mean? I had a friend that we had so many problems, and it got to the point where we just kind of stopped. We just mutually stopped talking to each other. We're like, whatever. And then we tried kind of just reconnect, because we've been friends for years, right? So we had good times. We tried reconnecting, and she had said, well, if you have to be my friend, then there's going to be all of these like rules you're going to have to follow. And I was like, I'm okay. Like I don't need to have rules to be friends with someone, right? Boundaries are fine. But if you're so different that you need to have a boundary and rule at every turn and corner and conversation, then that's not a friendship worth having, to me personally. Maybe to other people it is. To me, it wasn't. I was like, and I told her, I was like, I don't want to, every single time I have a conversation with you, to wonder, did something go wrong? Right? That's too stressful, too negative. I don't want to have to worry about that. Not saying that I'm not trying to respect boundaries, but that's just not something, that's my limit. Perfect example. That's my limit of what I am willing to do for a friendship or for a relationship. And I think that's, important to recognize too.
Yeah. Sometimes they're just conflicting, and
Yeah.
sometimes people just don't mesh.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I just recently, I want to say within maybe 4 or 5 months ago, I had to relinquish a relationship from someone I've known for 10, 12 years. And something I thought was silly, but it meant the world to her.
Mm-hmm.
She had sent out a group text for a baby shower that she was throwing for another friend. Well, I had recently changed my phone number, and I was in the process of connecting with everybody because all the numbers wouldn't transfer over to the new phone. And so I didn't get her message. So she texted me after the shower and said, I'm done. Our relationship is no more because you didn't respond back to me. And I was just like, whoa, where is this coming from? And who is this person? I mean, you and I have been friends for a long time. I had no idea you were this passionate about this person, and you threw a party. I didn't know anything about it. And the way she connected back with me it wasn't through my phone number because she didn't have it because it was new, but it was through email. And I was so hurt. But I just kind of accepted. I was like, well, if those are the demands that you have on the relationship, then, okay. And we just started kind of texting back and forth. I recently was in an accident, not an accident. I fell, I slipped and fell, and I broke my ankle. And so I was out of commission for almost 4 months. I'm just now coming back to work, but she was there for me when I needed certain things. And so we're just now gradually starting to come back into play. But I made sure I let her know what happened then. I didn't forget, number one. Two, we forgave each other. She forgave me and I forgave her. But we also set boundaries for the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You need to make sure to connect with me on all different avenues. You don't get me in one way. It's not just shut it down, we're done.
Mm-hmm.
There's more than one ways to get a hold of me. One, you know where I live. Two, you had my email. There's a lot of other people that I know. It can't just be that finite of a situation. After knowing someone for 10, 12 years, it's not fair. And so, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think those were some great ways. And actually, Sharice, that leads us into our next question. What are some good ways to start implementing boundaries and practicing assertiveness?
Good.
Yeah, I think communication is the most important thing. And like Sheree said, being tactful, that's something that I had to learn, when I was dating my first boyfriend. Just I would tell people I don't like this, and I thought that was normal. I didn't think there was anything wrong with saying that, right? But my ex was like, well, you have to be more tactful because you can be right, but you're giving away your higher ground if you're not tactful. And I had a really hard time with that because I don't understand why there has to be a lot of frills and whatever when I have to tell someone that I don't like a certain behavior,
Yep.
And his thing was like, well, you can say that, but why don't you say something like, prep them first, like, oh, thank you so much for doing this. And I was appreciated that you communicated with me. At the same time, I didn't like the way you chose, with the words you chose. I felt like that was unfair, blah, blah, blah. So you can still tell them. And to a certain extent, I agree. And yes, but with certain people, like with my close friends, I shouldn't have to. I can be assertive and say, Leah, I don't like that you called me a bad word. I don't have to be like, thank you so much for all the friendship over the years. And it felt so good to be your friend for 23.523 years now. Like with certain people, you shouldn't have to do that. So I think learning how to communicate is very, very important, and with who and what kind of communication style that person needs, right? Like it's not just about us, it's about them as well. So if we're comfortable being assertive, like I know that Leah's not comfortable with assertive people, so I will prep her, I'll butter her up first before I say something if I need to. And that's fine because I love Leah and she's my friend, and I'm taking that into consideration when I'm communicating with her. With my other friend, I probably don't have to do that with, and that's fine, and it's not a big deal. But her friendship means a lot to me, therefore I will go the extra mile for her to do that. So from my experience, communication has been the biggest key of how to communicate those boundaries and maintain and implement them. Because if the other person has no idea that you had set that boundaries, they're not going to know, and
Right.
and to you, you're still going to be offended and you're still going to be hurt, but they have no idea what's going on. They're just kind of like, yay, we're friends. And if you're not communicating, then that's not on them, it's on you. It's 100% on you.
I totally agree. People aren't mind readers. They're not. And if you don't tell them your expectations, how on earth are they going to rise up to those expectations or even try practicing those expectations with you if you're not communicating that? So you're absolutely right, Tyretel. And in Sharice's story, she did communicate that with her friends, like, hey, I didn't forget, and next time let's try this way. Like if you don't get me on my cell phone, email me.
Right.
If I'm not answering my email for whatever reason, come by my house. Like
Right.
we're not just gonna be like ended there. Like you know how to access me.
Right. And there's a way to tactfully deal with people. That I always call it like there's a dance that you do with people. One friend of mine, I may have to come at her with kindness and soft and gentle, kind of prep her. Another friend of mine, I could just be straight up. We speak this code language that my husband always says, I don't understand what you're saying. Just say what it is. You guys speak this code language, but we get it, and she understands me. And so I always call it, there's a dance that you do with people. And when we're dancing with somebody, there's respect in there, there's courteousness, there's you move one way and I move a different direction, and we're not bumping or stepping on each other's feet or toes,
That's
so
painful.
yes, it can be. And there's some, there's some gracefulness in how we have to communicate with people. We don't want to be hurt, and we shouldn't want to hurt other people with our words. So stop and think before you say what you have to say.
I think the step one is know your limits and clearly define them. You have boundaries in your intellect, in your emotions, in your physical, and in your spiritual. Be aware of those boundaries. Be aware what makes you comfortable. Be aware what's okay with you and what's not okay, and communicate them with strangers, colleagues, friends, families, intimate partners, whoever. Step two, I think, is be assertive. It's important to make eye contact. It's important to be clear in your voice. It's important to like have your shoulders back, not in a threatening way, just like back and in control. Like you're in
Just
control of your
control,
body.
good posture. Yeah, open posture I think is important
Open.
too.
Open, right? Because we know we can tell the difference between defensive and open, right? And people are so sensitive to body language. I feel like we're more sensitive to body language than what people are actually saying. So another good thing you can utilize is I statements. I statements for some people are not comfortable because it's a new way of thinking and it's a new way of and talking. So when I teach it, I teach the kids to drop the you because some people teach it with the you. They're like, I feel uncomfortable when you. I feel like that you's still very blaming. So I'm taking responsibility for my actions on how I feel. No one can make me feel this way, but this is what happens when I feel this way or to cause me to feel this way. So an example might be I feel disrespected when people enter my space without permission. I'm not putting it on anyone. When anyone does this, this is when I don't like it. So like I'm communicating you like so now you know. I communicated this with you like anytime this happens, I feel disrespected. And then I can probably follow it up with a suggestion like please just ask me like if you need something or schedule a time with me so we can both be there so I can feel comfortable, right? Um but it's a new it for a lot of people I statements is not first nature. So it takes practice. So that's the next key, right? Practice, 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 practice. Practice makes perfect. If you want to have better relationships, gotta practice at them. Take the opportunities like, hey, you know what? I didn't do this right. I wanted to do it this way, blah, 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 blah. Can we practice right now? And then let's practice again later. you know, being in that moment and like being honest and be like, okay, this is still areas of growth. I'm better here, but I can still do better there. And I'm still gonna work towards there. And then if all else fails, remove yourself. Delete, ignore, exit.
And I think what you said is really important, not just to bring up the problem, but always have a solution to go hand in hand. Because if you're just always like, well, this is an issue, and the other person's like, what else is new? You know what I mean? Like now you're putting it onto them to guess how it's going to make you feel, how to make you feel better, right? So when we have an issue with someone because they're crossing a boundary, we can say, hey, you know, like I said, I don't like when this happens. I prefer this to happen or instead. That way they're not playing a guessing game of which solution is the right answer, right? You're telling them what the right answer is. And hey, if that doesn't work for them, then they can say, well, I don't know about that. And then it becomes a conversation. It's not just you know, I'm pointing my gun at you and saying, I don't like it, pew pew, right? And the other person's like, they either try to defend or shoot back, right? Like, so I think coming up with a solution when you bring up the problem is key.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's good. And you know, I'm thinking about when we're first meeting people and we sit down and we're having conversations about what we like and what we don't like, what we're interested in, you know, whatever the topic is. It, at that moment, that could be where you bring in, yeah, you know, I feel this way when people don't listen to me or when I'm not given a chance to be heard or when I'm not, there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like genuinely people want to know how to communicate with you effectively so that there's no misunderstanding. So if that's done initially when we're meeting people, more power to that relationship. I mean, it's just going to be a more positive relationship and an interaction that you have, your engagement with them, because they know how to communicate with you, you know how to communicate with them. They know that you're going to say what it is that's troubling or bothering you, and you're hoping that they're going to do the same. And if not, encouraging them and helping them to get those words so that they can do it.
I'm actually really curious to hear from Leah. She's been kind of quiet, and I have a question for you, Leah.
Oh gosh.
Oh.
All right.
Yeah.
Lamont and Tyra show. No, I'm just kidding.
So, me being assertive in the way that I am, I know there's been some times when I've been assertive with you, and I know you haven't liked it because your mood changed. But I want to know how that made you feel, because I wasn't always assertive. So there was a time when I started becoming more assertive, and I know that you've noticed that. How did that feel for you, having a friend that used to not hold boundaries and communicate well, to suddenly trying to do that? How was that?
Scared? No. I mean, yeah, one part of me is like scared going through all that, but I mean, I guess I'm also proud of you because, like, I mean, you see growth in your friends. That's really good. Like, I can't do half of that, so good for you.
Was there any feelings of like negativity at first, like
Less, I mean, just probably just feeling threatened in some situations, but that's just like a defense mechanism. I highly doubt you were really doing anything that was like, oh my God, what a terrible thing to be happening. It's just me, that's my first defense. I was like, oh, someone's being mean to me. Shut down. We're done. But yeah, so coming from the non-assertive side from it, it can be scary, but we also have our own things we need to work on ourselves. So there's a lot to learn in this episode.
Yeah.
Thank you from all
Leah's
the
like
three assertive.
writing notes?
Like, okay, yeah.
Next
I
time
got
Tyra talks to me, say this.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I mean, I think that's a pretty good wrap up right there, actually. Like, I have learned a lot of things I need to utilize. Some of these things I've slowly been trying to incorporate in my life, like letting people know how I feel about certain stuff. Like I was telling my story earlier, it was scary, but it was necessary. And, I need to know what I'm feeling about things. And, if they push my boundaries, I need to just be like, hey, listen, not happening. So.
Hey, Leigh, I actually have a question. Did you say sorry in that communication at any point?
No, I didn't.
I'm so proud of you.
I was just like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm a firm believer that when you do set your boundary or the limit and you're assertive and you say no, it's okay to walk away with that and not worry about how did that person feel? Should I go back and check on them? That's not your problem after that. If it's done in a way that you feel confident that you respected them, you were firm, you were direct, there was intent, you were practicing all the positive things that we mentioned, and then you deliver the no, I'm not going to do that, or no, I don't like that, or no, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel okay to just walk away and let them deal with whatever that is.
Yeah.
That's going on with them.
Yeah.
That's not for you to handle that after.
I'm actually really happy you said that, because that did cross my mind when I was thinking about like Leah and I's relationship. Because like I said, I know that there was a time where I started being more assertive, and I would notice that like closed off, that defensiveness, and I would feel bad. I'd be like, oh, how you doing? Is everything okay? You want to go out for coffee? Like, I would always try to like, hey, I'm still the same person. I'm not like trying to be me. I'm not changing. I'm not being rude to you. And then it got to some point where I was like, this like, and then I noticed because somebody was doing that with me, and there was nothing that they could do to make me feel better, because it was just me having to learn and respect that this is a new phase of their life, a new growth. And so I started just leaving Leah alone, like giving her a chance to realize that I'm not being mean. And then I think sometimes if somebody comes and overly tries to butter us up, it's almost like a guilty statement, like, oh, I know I was mean, so I'm trying to make you feel good, So it got to the point where I was like, okay, I was assertive. Leah's going to have to just deal with it for a second and figure it out on her own. And then everything's fine. And we're still friends and we're still happy, So I think that's a really, really good point that you brought up, that I don't know, I feel like it's worked fine with Leah and I, right? Right? I'm just kidding.
That placating, it doesn't feel good, when you that does not feel good. Well, for me, it doesn't. I'm speaking personal.
Yeah.
I just say it to me how it is. There used to be a statement people would say, tell it to me like it T.I. is.
Yeah, that's how I am. Like, I know it's going to hurt, but tell me, and then let me deal with it. Let me deal with the hurt. Let me deal with how to interpret it and, how to come out of that. I need to internalize things. So I don't like it when people tell me something and then try to like help me along. I'm like, nope, let me figure it out. I got this. And then I noticed that I was doing that with Leah and with my other friends. And I was like, I just need to let them figure out their own way, because my way is not going to work for them. And, just kind of, like you said, you just don't worry about it. And if, and the thing, the what's called, you shall know them by their fruits, so to speak, right? Like, you're going to know if that went over well or not. If they internalized and then came out of it and everything is fine, your relationship is good, better, great. If it's taking a turn for the worse, then that something was either misinterpreted, maybe I didn't communicate properly, and then you can go on from there. But if you're constantly trying to control and to direct their reaction to you or their feelings towards you because of something that you did or said, that's never going to become clear, because you're always having a hand in it. So you have to take a step back, let them figure it out. And then at that point, once you've both had your moment of growth, you can figure out if you want to go together or go apart. So
I love that. This has been a great conversation. I definitely I'm so glad both of you guys wanted to be on this conversation. Let's go ahead and wrap things up. So thank you guys for coming on today, talking with Leah and myself. Do either of you guys have big plans or projects that are coming up and that you guys would like to share?
Well, not really big plans, but my husband and I'm helping him with he already has one podcast that he has with his friends. It's called the No Apologies Network, where it's a group of 3 of them. They're unapologetically expressing anything that they want to talk about, political, social, whatever, and they don't apologize for what they say. And they mean what they say, and they say what they mean. They're all 3 very direct, very alpha men. So it's an arena for them to express. So I love watching that. But he's starting his own, and I'm kind of helping him. It's called Said on Fire. And he's actually talking about things that are passionate about him, that are burning inside of him. In lieu of writing a book, it's going to be on a platform through podcasts. Okay. So I'm going to help him with that. And I've just been thoroughly into TikTok, putting out things that I'm interested in or passionate about, helping people in that way, through that entertainment. And I am starting back at work, so I'm sure I'm going to be less and less on social media and back into work, since I'm healing from my injury.
And we'll link everything below. So we'll grab all your contacts for that, and we'll put it in the description below if anyone wants to check any of those out. All right, Tyra, you got anything going on, or?
Well, we're looking into buying a house.
Don't say it. Don't say it. We're going to talk about this after the episode.
So yeah, we'll see what happens, but that's the plan in a few months, hopefully.
So if you guys don't remember, we had Tyra on our dream episode. It was such a fun episode, and I think we talked a little bit about her husband there. So her and her husband are, I guess, apparently going to looking into buying a house.
Looking into. Mm-hmm. So
Nice.
that's the really only big plan coming up. So we'll see.
I'm
And
going to
then
speak
Yes.
positivity in your life and say congrats early.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Congratulations, I guess. She's moving away from me and I'm not happy.
Well, guys, thank you for a great show. Thank you, ladies, for being you. Sherice, thank you for all the love throughout the years and the continued love. I'm just so blessed.
Thank you. Thank you guys. This has been phenomenal. I enjoyed myself.
Yeah, I was excited that you allowed me to come for the assertiveness one.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm passionate about this topic.
Same, one of my favorite topics. Today's life lesson is believing that you are enough. How do you guys get there? It takes little practices every day, looking yourself in the mirror, saying, "You're amazing, I love you, you are enough." That's simple, that's sweet. Practice it and grow.